the last conversation we had concerning the 1940s, I remember distinctively expressing that in my opinion, that might have been the greatest professional debut year for some of the greatest fighters in boxing history. Ray Robinson, Jimmy Bivens, Ike Williams, Willie Pep, Edward Charles, Jake LaMotta, Bo Jack, although he has on record 2 fights in 1939, but I give him 1940 as a professional start. And Jake LaMotta received his license in 1940, but didn't have his first specific fight until 41. So he's a 1940s fighter as far as I'm concerned. November 26, 1945, we will begin looking at some great fighters as we reflect back as the fights they participated in. Ancient Archie Moore would knock out Holman Williams in 11 rounds in Baltimore, Maryland. 5,000 fans would pack the Coliseum to witness the gladiators get it on. This time Archie Moore would set the pace and throw off combinations and punches that would stop Holman Williams. Archibald Lee Wright, Old Mongoose, born December 13, 1913, 1916, based on what conversations you would have with Archie Moore. Benoit, Mississippi, and he would die December 9, 1998 in San Diego, California. He stood 5'11", weighed 145 to 206.5 pounds. That's remarkable. December 10, 1945, 30-year-old Jersey Joe Walcott would knock out 25-year-old Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepard in 10 rounds. The fight took place in Baltimore, Maryland. And Jersey Joe Walcott, his name was Arnold Raymond Cream. He was born January 31st, 1914 in Dismere, New Jersey. He stood 6 foot, he was a heavyweight and had a 74-inch reach. He would die February 25th, 1994. He was 80 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Camden, New Jersey. Now, he fought from 1930 to 1953. He had a record of 70 total bouts, 49 wins, 20 losses, 31 knockouts, and he was stopped 6 times by the time his career was over. Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepard. His name was James Robert. He was born August 29th, 1920 in Jacksonville, Florida. He himself would die May 10th, 1984 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was 63 years of age at the time of his death, and he stood 5'11". Fought from 1938 to 1949. Ended his career with a record of 86 total bouts, 51 wins, 33 losses, 33 knockouts, and he was stopped 5 times. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting both Jersey Joe Walcott and Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepard. Hatchet Man Shepard, 12 rounds, Baltimore, Maryland. What a fight that was. Now, Shepard would fight fighters such as Herbert Katz, Tony Musio, Lee Q. Murray. He would lose to Willie Reddish. Let me tell you about Willie Reddish. He trained Meldrick Taylor early on in Meldrick Taylor's amateur career. But Willie Reddish was a light heavyweight as a professional. He was a master at that shoulder roll. He was a Philadelphia fighter. Knew all the tricks of the trade. Reddish would fight fighters such as Buddy Walker, Perk Daniels, Big Boy Brown, and Rusty Payne, Charlie Doc Williams, and many, many others. Had the pleasure of knowing Willie Reddish as well. May 20th, 1946, Ezra Charles would defeat Archie Moore, 10 rounds in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. These men would get it on 3 separate occasions. And unfortunately for Archie Moore, he couldn't solve the puzzle with Ezra Charles. Ezra Charles, as I said, turned professional in 1940, and he understood the game very well. He was undefeated as an amateur with a record of 42-0. And he would win every conceivable amateur record and title that can be won. Ezra Charles has sparred many rounds with Ray Robinson, when both these men were featherweights. Now, Jack Chase would be in the ring 6 times with Archie Moore. Jimmy Bivens would be in the ring 5 times with Archie Moore. Lloyd Marshall wouldn't get away from Archie Moore as well. Moore fought Howard King 6 times, Oak and Billy Smith 4 times, Joey Maxim 3 times, and Eddie Booker 3 times, Azar Charles 3 times, Burt Littell, Coco Kid, and Johnny Bandit Romero. Would also be involved with the Hughes brothers, Big Boy and Shorty Hughes. July 29th, 1946, Jesse Charles would knock out Lloyd Marshall in 6 rounds in Cincinnati, Ohio. And what a doozy that would be. November 14th, 1947, Blackjack Billy Fox would win a bout in New York's Madison Square Garden against the Bronx Bull, Jacob LaMotta. Word was on the street that Jacob LaMotta would take a dive in 4 rounds. The referee was Frank Fulmer. And the odds were 6-5 that Jake LaMotta would defeat Blackjack Billy Fox. So for that reason, the betting odds would change every 10 minutes in the garden itself. And the chairman would go to Jake LaMotta's locker room and warn him, God damn it, I understand what's happening. If you do this one, Jake, you will never fight in this state again. I can't help you if you do it. And he steams out of the locker room. Little did he know this would actually happen. Blackjack Billy Fox at that time had a record of 51-0 with 50 knockouts. Both men hoped to get a shot at Gus Lesnar Richards' title. The word also on the street was that Jake LaMotta would be offered $100,000 to take this dive. Blinky Paloma. $20,000 was paid to LaMotta. LaMotta would bet $20,000 against Marcel Sedan and $20,000 on himself. And it turns out that Marcel Sedan, when they did fight, didn't answer the 10th round bell. Claimed he had a shoulder injury. Jake LaMotta would rack up. Jake LaMotta was supposed to fight Ray Robinson instead of Marcel Sedan, but he owed the mob a fight, and they couldn't pay off Ray Robinson. Marcel Sedan, attorneys would get involved because they tried to give him step-aside money. So on his way flying back over from Casablanca to New York to renegotiate the contract for their second fight, all of a sudden Marcel Sedan plane would crash. My God. This boxing game really is something else. September 27th, 1946. Brooklyn middleweight hard-punching sensation Rocky Marciano was dropped in the first round and saved by the bell in the second round. The bout was scheduled for 15 rounds. It was for the middleweight championship contest, New York's Yankee Stadium. And the champion at that time was Gary Indiana's Tony Zale. It would be one of 3 exciting bouts between these two men. They would fight in 46, 47, and then again in 48. And it was for the NBA and the New York Sac World Middleweight Championship contest. Ruby Goldstein was the referee. 1 minute and 43 seconds of the 6th round. 39,827 fight fans who paid collectively $342.42 for $497. $342,497.42. Graziano was 27 years old. He stood 5'7" and he weighed 152 pounds. He had a 68.5-inch reach and with a record of 43 wins, 6 losses, 5 draws, and 32 knockouts. As for Tony Zale, he was 33 years old. He stood 5'7", had a 69-inch reach. He was a middleweight with a record of 57 wins, 16 losses, 2 draws, and 35 knockouts. Between these two men, They would mix it up 3 separate occasions. Tony Zale would become the unified middleweight champion when he would defeat Georgie Abrams, and that was questionable by many. Georgie Abrams would take on Charlie Burley, and how Charlie Burley lost that contest to this day, no one could ever tell me how, because they don't know themselves. Now, yes, Georgie Abrams was a very good fighter. He doesn't beat Charlie Burley. Let's be honest about this. The same thing happened with Coco Kid. He was robbed. Georgie Abrams then takes on Tony Zale. Tony Zale becomes the middleweight champion of the world, and from that point of 41 until he was knocked out against Marcel Sedan. No Black Murderers Row middleweights would ever get a chance at Tony Zale. Ray Robinson never got a shot at Tony Zale. Charlie Burley, Holman Williams, Burt Lytell, Coco Kid, Lloyd Marshall, Ezra Charles, Archie Moore. They didn't get a shot at Tony Zale's title. Rocky Graziano did. Now, yes, it was an outstanding trilogy between those two men. 1947, as we'll find out soon enough, Rocky Graziano would be graced for the opportunity. November 6, 1946, Harlem, New York's welterweight sensation is dropped in the 5th round, headlines read. And he was knocked out of the ring in the 9th round for a 19 count. He was saved by the bell. Comes back to knock out Brooklyn's dynamite puncher, Artie Levine. The fight took place at the Cleveland Arena in front of 12,000 spectators. Artie Levine's name was Arthur Lindsay Levine, who was born January 26, 1925 in Brooklyn, New York. He stood 5 foot 8 inches. He was a welterweight. He ended his boxing career with a record of 72 total bouts, 52 wins, 36 knockouts, 15 losses, and 5 draws. I had the pleasure of knowing Artie Levine. When I spoke with him, he did not have any malice towards Ray Robinson. In fact, he spoke very highly of him. But in the sound of his voice, you can tell that he felt jobbed. What's interesting about Artie Levine, we'll be mentioning Jimmy Doyle, as he was Ray Robinson's first title defense in 1947. But Jimmy Doyle would take on Artie Levine shortly before he would take on Ray Robinson. And he would suffer a bad concussion after meeting Artie Levine, March 11th, 1946. No one seems to remember that, as no one seems to remember when Benny Kipperett had taken on Emil Griffith in 1962. Just 6 months before that, he was in the ring with Gene Foreman, and he would suffer a beating. And not taking into consideration that Benny Kipperett was a welterweight champion, and Gene Foreman was the middleweight champion. They were both current champions during that time. Gene Foreman was supposed to take on Reuben Hurricane Carter or George E. Benton, but he chose Reuben Hurricane Carter. He chose Benny Kipperett instead. Carter would wind up fighting George E. Benton, and what a fight that was. November 26, 1946, the Philadelphia lightweight Bobcat, Bob Montgomery, would knock out Wesley Rumsey. Wesley Muzzo was a very good fighter. December 6, 1946, the Casablanca middleweight Marcel Sedan would make his professional debut in America by defeating Georgie Abrams in 10 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden. Let's look at Georgie Abrams once again. Georgie Abrams get a shot at the new up-and-coming middleweight from Casablanca. But yet Coco Kid and Charlie Burley, Holman Williams, and Burt Littell. I'm trying to figure this out here because the pieces are not adding up. This fight took place in New York's Madison Square Garden. Marcel Sedan's professional debut. And he fights a top 10 ranked Georgie Abrams. Would put him in line to face Tony Zale. I can't figure this picture out. $15,670 paid $82,948 to watch Harlem's formerly Ali George's sensational welterweight. December 20th, 1946. His name was Ray Robinson. He would become the 5th black welterweight champion in boxing history when he defeated Ohio's own Tommy Bell. 15 rounds, New York's Madison Square Garden. It was for the vacant New York SAC and NBA welterweight championship title. Marty Servo would retire because Ray Robinson was his next mandatory. Robinson had already been ranked number 1 for several years at this point. Marty Servo, who took the title away from Freddie Red Cochrane. Both Cochrane and Servo refused to face Ray Robinson for their title. Sammy Engard as well. And Marty Servo had lost to Ray Robinson twice before Ray Robinson would become his manager. And rather than face Ray Robinson, keep the lineage going, he would decide. And when he took on Rocky Graziano and received a broken nose, that he would retire. Marty Servo refused to fight Ray Robinson, and everyone knew it, and no one did anything about it. The referee was Eddie Joseph. Ray Robinson was the 10-5 favorite. Over Tommy Bell. But when Bell tipped Ray Robinson's chin, Ray Robinson went down on one knee in the 6th round. My God. That statement is clear. It's an old-fashioned Southern statement where no one makes a sound. Like you couldn't hear a rat piss on a cot. Everyone stood on their feet in silence. Mouth wide open. Newspapers dropped on the floor. Programs were torn in half. It was shocking and frustration. They didn't know what to think next. All the money was on Ray Robinson, and Ray Robinson was the up-and-coming sensation. He would then become the 5th black welterweight champion of the world. But he's on one knee. Ray Robinson is the only thing that the African American community has to look forward to. Joe Louis is champion, yes, but he proved his point in 1938 when he faced a fighter by the name of Black Hewlin, Max Schmeling. This surprise was the same surprise look on the fan's face when Joe Louis was knocked down in 36 by Max Schmeling. Robinson stood 5'11.5" he weighed 146.5 pounds, and he was 25 years old. He had a record of 73-1 with a 72-inch reach advantage. Tommy Bell from Youngstown, Ohio, stood 5'7", weighed 146 pounds. He was 23 years old. And he had a record of 39 with 26 knockouts. This was actually the 2nd round. Ray Robinson goes on one knee. He looks at his chief instructor, chief second, Harry Wiley Sr. Harry Wiley Sr. gives him the look of Harlem. Ray knew what that meant. As referee Eddie Joseph counts to 8, Ray gets up. Joseph grabs Ray Robinson's gloves and he wipes off the the rosin that has been embedded in his gloves. And Ray shakes his head, shakes off all the cobwebs, and all the sweat will be released from the conch hair of Ray Robinson. Joseph will wave both men together to continue. Robinson allowed Tommy Bell to come to him. When he did, he popped the jab. Feint left, feint right, and found the back door. And as he would backpedal, move from side to side, his shoulder and his head would feint from different directions. Ray would jab to the pit of the stomach and come up to the nostrils with a quick 1-2 to the head of Tommy Bell. He would tie his man up, push him off, jab again. It was one of the most beautiful boxing exhibitions that the Garden audiences were inspired to see. And they understood then what kind of a man Ray Robinson really was. He never betted against Ray Robinson for the remainder of his career. What a fighter Ray Robinson was then until the end of his career. Ray Robinson now becomes the 5th black welterweight champion in boxing history. Oh, 1940s. You can't tell me it wasn't a better decade. Now, Ray Robinson was scheduled to face the world champion Marty Servo on September 6, 1946 at the New York Yankee Stadium. Bojack and Tippy Larkin had turned down the opportunity to face Bojack and to face Tippy Larkin. It was an absolute pleasure, Ray Robinson would later state, but they wouldn't fight. So they would have to go to Youngstown, Ohio to grab a fighter by the name of Tommy Bell. Now, Ray had defeated Tommy Bell in 45. Tommy Bell had a younger brother by the name of Bobby Bell, who was a bantamweight. There were 3 brothers, but 2 fighters of significance. Why Bojack and why Tippy Larkin would turn out this fight. What was interesting to me that both these men would fight each other in 1942 for the vacant New York SAC lightweight championship belt that was relinquished by Sammy Anga. And both these men had records for fighting in main event fights in New York Madison Square Garden. Bojack 21 and Tippy Larkin 19 main event fights in Madison Square Garden. So the opportunity was there. Tommy Bell would take it. Marty Servo had claimed that he had a broken nose in a bout with Brooklyn's bad boy, Rocky Graziano, March 29, 1946 in New York, Madison Square Garden. Ray Robinson, Tommy Bell. Who was Tommy Bell? Was born March 3, 1923 in Youngstown, Ohio. He would die July 14, 1994. He was 71 years of age at the time of his death. I had the pleasure of meeting Ray Robinson, Tommy Bell, Bojack, Tippy Larkin, Rocky Graziano, Harold Green, on and on and on. Now, Tommy Bell fought from 1942 to 1951. He would end his career with a record of 87 total bouts, 53 wins, 32 knockouts, and 29 losses. He faced Cecil Hudson, May 6, 1946. He lost to him on points. July 29, 1946, Bell would defeat California Jackie Wilson in 10 rounds. September 27, 1946, Bell would face Cecil Hudson again. He would defeat him in 10 rounds. Robinson faced Cecil Hudson November 1st, 1946, but he would knock him out. He defeated Artie Levine November 6, 1946 by 10-round knockout. Ray was in the ring with Ozzie Bulldog Harris of Pittsburgh, November 6, 1946. May 5th, 1947, Ezra Charles would defeat Archie Moore in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Music Hall Arena, in front of 4,502 spectators. They paid $23,281.50 to watch two of the very best black fighters get it on, and what would be one of three exciting contests. Then Charles would defeat Moore. Moore went down from a beautiful left hook of Ezra Charles. He was hit to the body. And after Charles defeated Moore, he offered Gus Lesnievich $75,000 to defend his crown against him. And the offer was not taken seriously. Gus Lesnievich and his camp would refuse to face Ezra Charles. But that was a surprise. That was not a surprise, as they will all refuse offers. On a Friday night, December 5th, 1947, Joe Louis goes down by Jersey Joe Walcott in the very first round and the fourth round at New York's Yankee Stadium. Actually, they fought New York's Madison Square Garden. Ruby Goldstein was the referee. And the fight was a 6-7 odd favor for Walcott. Judge Forbes, George Marty Monroe would have Louis up. Goldstein had Louis down. This was Louis' 24th world title defense. Louis was a 10-1 favorite. 18,194 fans invested $216,477 for this contest. 33-year-old Joe Louis stood 6 foot 1.5 inches, weighed 211 pounds, had a 76-inch reach, had a record of 56 wins, 1 loss, and 48 knockouts. As for Jersey Joe Walcott, he was 33 years old. He was 6 foot and weighed 194 pounds, had a 74-inch reach, and had a record of 42 wins, 13 losses, 1 draw, and 26 knockouts. These two men would be trained by the trained man, a well-trained man. In fact, this trained man, trained fighters such as Sammy Mandela, Lou Ambrose, some of the great ones, Charles Bud Taylor, Lou Salinger, Canada Lee. He trained these two great heavyweights to become champions one day. But he only knew of one, he didn't know of two, because he died 1942 in Chicago. His name was Jack Blackburn. Now, a man dies 3 minutes and 25 seconds after one of the most exciting blows would turn deadly. His name was Jimmy Doyle. He was carried to ringside to Charity Hospital. He was operated on by Dr. Spencer Brandon in Cleveland, Ohio. He suffered from brain bleed. 3 hours and 25 p.m. June 24th, 1947, Ray Robinson knocks out Jimmy Doyle, 9 rounds, at the Cleveland Arena, and he would retain his World Welterweight Championship crown. The referee was Jackie Davis. Unfortunately for Ray Robinson, who had a premonition concerning a left hook, after sparring in Parkland Lakes, he put a man down for 10 minutes. Luckily, the man would recuperate. But he had a premonition, woke up in cold sweats, believing that his up-and-coming opponent, his first title defense from winning the welterweight championship title from Youngstown, Ohio's Tommy Bell. The opponent was Jimmy Doyle. And he felt that he would kill Jimmy Doyle with a left hook, and that's exactly what happened. He would go over to his manager, and his manager would say, "No, that's just a dream." So then he went over to a Catholic priest and a minister, and they said, "Ray, go in with the fight, that's just a dream," because everybody had money on Ray Robinson. And just like Ray Robinson dreamed, he hit him with a left hook. Jimmy Doyle died in the ring. Ray Robinson was so hurt by that he would give Jimmy Doyle's money, his paycheck. Jimmy Doyle's mother would receive a portion of Ray Robinson's pay for the next 4 fights. Robinson would be devastated for many years after that. 11,275 spectators who witnessed such travesty. $36,841 was paid to Doyle's mother. $50 per month, $6,000 for 10 years was given to Doyle's parents by Ray Robinson. Ray stood 5'11". He weighed 146 pounds, and he had a 72.5-inch reach. He fought from 1940 to 1965. He had a record of 78 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, and 52 knockouts. Jimmy Doyle, who was 22 years old, stood 5'7", weighed 147 pounds, had a 72.5-inch reach, and he fought from 1941 to 1947. He ended his career with a record of 42 wins, 6 losses, 3 draws, and 14 knockouts. He was paid $11,841. Ray was paid $25,000. Ray was 26 years old when this account happened. Who was Jimmy Doyle? His name was James Emerson Delaney. He was born August 1st, 1924 in Los Angeles, California. He died June 25th, 1947. He was 22 years of age in Los Angeles, California. Fought from 1941 to 47. He had a record of 53 total bouts, 42 wins, 7 losses, 14 knockouts, and he was stopped 3 times. And his last bout was May 5th, 1947, with a technical knockout, George Bradford Smith. I'm Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. We'll continue with the 1940s, right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Thanks for listening. 1940s was an outstanding decade, full of information and history with some of the greatest fighters of all times. Peace.